Good afternoon, students. Today, as per we discussed in the your WhatsApp group, so this is a revision class regarding for the module number one. Okay, so this is module number one. I am going to conduct a quiz on the Monday, that is in 11th. Okay, so be ready with the module number one and be the go thorough with each and every concepts in the module number one. So let us discuss in brief. Okay, in the model number one it is a repeated will discuss regarding this concept, each and every concept. Model number one is already discussed in the class before the lockdown. Okay, but we have completed all our syllabus, so once again we are going from the first to the last. Okay, so let us start. Okay, so the first module one contains the introductions and the basic materials used in the foundry. Okay, so what is the manufacturing process? The introduction for the manufacturing process. What do you mean by the manufacturing process? So see, any of the components or any of the things that is exist in this earth, okay, it is having any of the daily uses, you are using daily uses in your life. Okay, cell phones, computers, fan, refrigerators, air condition, toothbrush, screwdriver, everything whatever you are using for your comfortness of your life. Okay, that thing is made by the human being. Okay, that thing or the object which has been going to be used, okay, which gives the results, which that results makes the comfort of the human beings. Okay, or any other things, automobile, cars, bicycles, aeroplanes, trains, bus, bicycles. Okay, so these things which are being made, okay, is there is one of the method it is been used for manufacture such types of things. Okay, so which are the methods are being used for manufacturing this are the worldwide common methods are forging, casting, forming, machining. Okay, so these are the some of the methods which are being used for having the products. Okay, so the manufacturing is the conventional of a raw material into a suitable products. Okay, whatever the raw material is there, that has to be converted into a suitable product that can be used. Okay, and which can give the result. The word manufacture driven from the Latin word manu, meaning by an hand, fatum means and made, almost like hand making. This is what the word which has been used as a manufacture, which has been dragged from the Greece, that is a Latin words. Okay, now let us see some of the classifications of the manufacturing process. The various processes available in the manufacturing products can be put into any one of the four categories mentioned below. So there are so many processes are there. Usually these are the four categories by which they can be uh, distinguished, okay, or separated. First one is in casting, second one forming, third one machining, and fourth one is in joining. The details classified as shown in figure. There is a description discuss below. So the classification of the manufacturing process. Okay, so there are four categories usually has been used in the manufacture. Okay, so first one is on casting, second one forming, third one machining, and fourth one is in joining. Now let's see the casting, the classification of manufacturing process. Okay, the casting is a manufacturing process which involves the pouring of a molten metal, that may be the ferrous or non-ferrous, any of the metal you can use, ferrous or non-ferrous metal, to get a product by this casting method. Okay, into an mold cavity. The mold cavity, you know which type of mold cavity, whatever the product you are required, that shape pattern is been made, that pattern is been pressed into the sand. When you remove the sand, the impression of the sand in the impression of the pattern is been gets on that sand, okay, and there is a small cavity will be generated as per the shape of that pattern. That cavity is called as a mold cavity, whose shape reassembled and shape for the desired products, okay, and allowing the molten metal to solidified in that castings. Okay, so whatever the molten metal means what? A liquid metal which is melt by the solid metal. Okay, so the solid metal which has been melted, that metal is called as a molten metal, and it has been poured into a cavity and allow it for the solidification. Okay, the solidified part is then taken out from the mold cavity to an finished product. Okay, so this is how the simple casting process has been carried out. Now let us see further whatever the classifications are there, that we'll see. Now let us see, the casting is further than classified into two categories. Okay, it is classified into two categories. Okay, expandable mold casting and permanent mold casting. Now let us see what is this expandable mold casting and permanent mold casting. Okay, in expandable, in this type, the mold prepared from the sand, plaster or similar material is temporary, okay, and is destroyed in order to remove the solidified parts. In other words, a new mold has to be prepared for a new casting. So see, expandable casting mold. So these types of mold which are been prepared by the sand, plaster or similar material, okay, which can be temporary. The mold, these types of mold of the castings are not used for the mass production. When you required a single component to be cast, okay, a small quantity, one or two, three or four types quantity production, if you want to remove rare production or the rare product, you have to remove a rare one. Okay, special purpose type casting. So these types of expandable mold has been used by the temporary using material, just like in sand mold you can destroy it, plaster also you can destroy it, or the similar material which you are using. Okay, that can be used. You can destroy that mold once the casting is removed, or it can be refractoriness continuously. Once again you can use. If you take the green sand, it can be destroyed during the casting, and that refractory sand is grey sand which has been used for removing the casting. Then once again by adding some binders and additives, it can be used again for making the mold. Okay, so these types of mold, prepared casting, the casting removed from these types of mold, are called as an expandable mold casting. Now second is an permanent mold casting. In these types, the mold fabricated out by a ductile material, for example as in steel. So see the steel dies, you have seen the steel dies which are been used in the forging, okay, as well as it's also used in the casting. Steel dies are there which are being used permanently. If there is a mass production, okay, continuously the casting is to be removed out, or the small non-ferrous metal. So see, these types of permanent mold castings are been prepared, mold are been prepared for non-ferrous, because the melting temperature is very low compared to the ferrous material, and the dies are made by the ferrous, okay, ductile materials as a ferrous, you can call it a ferrous also. So these types of dies are being used in which the molten metal is being used for the mass production. These types of sands are being used, okay, which can be used repeatedly and produce a many casting, which can be used repeatedly continuously. It can be used for the longer time, so where there is a no wear and tear, resistances are very less, okay, and these dies are being used for making a mold cavities. Okay, continuous casting, centrifugal casting. So these types of casting methods are there by removing such types of permanent mold dies. Okay, so so these are the two types of casting methods, okay, are being used for removing the casting. Now let us go for the forming. Forming is also one of the important manufacturing method nowadays, okay. The forming or the metal working is the process in which the desired shape and the size of an component obtained through the plastic deformation of a workpiece. The forming process are broadly classified into two categories, okay, on the working temperature: hot working process and cold working process. So see over here, the forming is nothing but the extension of the volume, extension of the area, okay. Some external force is been applied on the workpiece and it has been extended, okay. For example, if a 10 mm bar is there, by applying the force on the 10 mm bar, it has been extended to the 20 mm, okay. So whatever the wires you are using, the steel wires or the copper wires, okay, so whatever the wires are, the thin layers are there, how it has been prepared. So these are been done by the forming methods. The forming is one of the manufacturing methods which is used for making a small metallic wires, nails, okay, where the elasticity and the ductile materials are being used, okay, for maximum for the for manufacturing and products by using these forming methods, okay. These forming methods of a manufacturing process is carried out in two different what you can say conditions. First one is an hot working condition as a cold working condition. So see, the name itself indicates that the forming methods, okay, manufacturing method, hot and cold. Hot means what? At a high temperature. Cold means what? At a low temperature. In hot temperature, how does the forming process is carried out? The workpiece is being heated at a high temperature below the melting point, okay. Below the melting point, above the crystallization, below the recrystallization, okay. What do you mean by this one? Above its crystallization but below the recrystallization. Below the recrystallization means what? The crystallization, the nuclei formation starts, the new crystal starts. When it starts, when the complete metal is been melt, it starts to solidifies again, okay. When it goes to solidifies, at that moment what happens, okay, the nuclei is generated and the new crystal starts to generate, okay. Up to that level or the melting point temperature, the workpiece is not heated, okay, in the forming processes. It is heated only the crystal position has to be changed within the metrological condition of that workpiece, okay. Only the crystal position has to be changed. That has to, at that temperature only it has been heated, and the load is applied from the other hand or the top side, whatever the convenient way is there for the extension of that workpiece. The load is applied from that position and the workpiece is been formed or extended, okay. Due to the below the before the recrystallization or above the recrystallization, the workpiece uh, undergoes to the ductile condition and starts to extend over there and form an any of the shape, okay. So the rollers are being good example for the forming method. So we have seen the household steels are there which are being used for the construction purposes. How these steels are being made? A wrong bar is there of 20 mm round bar is that is been continuously passed through the roller in by hot conditions, okay, above its crystallization, okay. Above the crystallization, below the melting point, it is not melting but it changing the crystal position, it has been softer, okay. It has been passed continuously to the roller, between two rollers. What happens, the continuous passing of between the rollers, the diameters of that bar is been reduced. Once the diameter is been reduced, obviously the volume or the area will also increase of that bar. Sorry, the area will also increase of that bar. The length and the diameter will also increase of that bar. Okay, like this way the forming manufacturing process has been carried out. Now next one is a cold working process. In this process the deformation of the metal takes place below the recrystallization temperature. That means was no heat is been given to the workpiece and no change of the position of the crystals into the uh, metrological structure of that workpiece. Okay, no recrystallization has been carried out. Okay, that without zero at a less temperature. Okay, the temperature heat is not used for the workpiece. This is how it has been carried out. For example, for the bending purpose, drawing and the sharing are one of the manufacturing method. So the sheet metal works are there, the centering works you have seen, the centering work, the bending of the steels. Okay, these types of works. Okay, of fabricating of the steels. Okay, so these types of things are been manufactured by the forging methods. Now let us go with the third category, that is a machining process. So in this machining process involves a removing of an excess material from the workpiece to obtain the desired shape and size. Okay, the machining is further classified into two categories. So see, the machining may be used initially, the machining may be used at last, in the casting, in the forging, in the forming. Okay, so the after the applying this process, usually in the casting and the forging, once the any product is been done by this type of manufacturing method, that is the forging or the casting, the final product or the final finish for that product is been given by the machining. The machining is been used for giving the finishing of that products. Okay, in the industries nowadays. Now which are the machining methods are being used? There are two different traditional ways are being used for the machining purpose. Methods are there. One is a traditional or the conventional machining. Second one is a non-traditional or non-conventional machining. This process make us for a cutting tool. This process make us make a use of a cutting tool. Okay, to remove the excess material from the workpiece. Both the workpiece and the cutting tools are rigidly molded on the machine using a suitable device, for example turning, milling, drilling, grinding, etc. Now second one, non-traditional or non-conventional machine. This process are use a laser, electro beam, chemical erosion, electrical discharge and electrochemical energy instead of traditional cutting tool to remove the excess material from the workpiece. Okay, so see, there is a two difference between the traditional and the non-traditional work conventional machining. So what are the difference? The one difference is that in the traditional machining there is an hand cutting tool is there which is been used. So what are the traditional machining? So say the lathe machine, milling machine, drilling machine, okay, grinder. So these are the traditional from the ancient times. These types of machines are being used for the machining of end products, and continuously they are being used for being a part of a manufacturing method. Okay, to get the finished products. Okay, to get the dimensional products. Okay, now the non-traditional conversion machine, as these machines takes a longer time as per the production point of view, some of the non-conventional machines are been invented, such as a laser cutting machine, laser beam machine, electro beam cut machine, ultrasonic machine. Okay, so these are the processes in which no cutting tools are being used, only the electrical beams, light beams, okay, another source of energy is converted into a working energy, that is an laser. Light source is converted into a laser beam. Okay, electronics beams are electrical energy is converted into electronic beam. Chemical energy has been used. Okay, electrical discharge and the electrochemical energy has been used. So these types of different sources of the radiations, chemical energies, sources of the energies are being used for cutting in products or to remove the excess material, extra material, unwanted material, and make that raw material into an finished products or an usable product. So this is of the third category of the manufacturing process. Now we will go with the fourth one. Let us see the fourth one. Now the fourth one is in joining. What do you mean by the joining? Okay, in this also there are the two categories are there, temporary and the permanent joining. So before going in the details, we'll see what are the highlights of the joining. What do you mean by the joining? Defines the joining. The joining process involves an assembling or joining two or more parts together to form a single components of a desired shape and size. They are further classified into two categories, temporary and permanent joint. Now see the joining, how it has been done, the joining. So see, the best part of this manufacturing method is a fabrication workshop. You can see in the fabrication workshop. So see, the bus body, the car body, or your bike chassis, so these are not made by the or manufactured by the casting method or forging method or any other method. So these are been fabricated by welding method, rivet method. Rivets are been done for the body building of the bus, joining to other parts. Okay, whatever the two different sizes of pipes are being joined by the means of the welding, butt joint, knuckle joint. Okay, so these are the different types of joining methods are there to get or manufacture one of the products. So this is how uh, the joining is been carried out. Okay, now there in there also there are some temporary joints are there, permanent joints are there. So in this process the joint obtained is in temporary. The assembly parts can be separate easily through without damage of them. So see, nut and bolt, screws, shoulderings and bracing. Shouldering and the bracing, you can remove the shouldering and the bracing if you slightly increase the temperature on the shoulder material or the brace material, filler metal is there, so it will melt and it can separate the both the components which has been joined. Okay, it is a small simple not much strength joint it is. Okay, so the bolt and nuts, the screws are there. By reversing the screw you can release the two parts. Okay, so these types of joints are called as a temporary joint. Now second one is a permanent joint process. In this process the joint obtained will be such that the connected part have broken into order to separate them. Okay, so in this the welding and the rivets, so they by this method if you joint two parts, okay, it cannot separate both the parts. Okay, you have to break that both the parts to separate them each other. So this is how the permanent joint is been done. Okay, so this is what the fourth category of the manufacturing process, that is an joining. Now next is an introduction to the casting process. Okay, Now what is the casting process, that we're going to study. The classification of foundries, alloys, okay, that you are going to study. Okay, so the introduction for the casting process. The casting or the foundry is one of the oldest manufacturing process that has been practiced ever for over 5000 years. Okay, prehistoric man found a copper shaped, it is used as a weapon, arrowhead. Okay, arrowhead for his defense. Later he found the weapon could be easily made by melting and pouring a copper in the mold cast. Then they could be beaten or forged to size and shape. The forging is progress is civilization made to discover the different metal and process for the casting method. Okay, so see, and from the ancient times the casting methods have been come. Okay, you can see in the Mahabharata, Ramayana, so the arrows are being used for in the wars. Okay, that arrows were being made by these types of forging methods as well as the casting methods. Okay, then afterwards in the 18th century or 12th century, the Shivaji Maharaj, whatever the kings were there, Afzal, Aurangzeb, whatever the kings were there, they used to use the swords. Okay, that were been also used by the forging method. The forging is been used as a manufacturing method for making their weapons for the soldiers during the wars. So see, this is not an from one decade, or it is having from the last 5 to 6 decades. Okay, seven. Okay, from long ancient times, these types of manufacturing process are been used from the last uh, few of decades. Okay, there are some modifications have been occurs within this manufacturing methods, and some alterations are been done to developing the process of these types of manufacturing. Okay, uh, in the castings and everything. Okay, the casting involves the melting the metal and the pouring into a mold cavity, as you know. Okay, whose shape reassembles the shape of the desired object. Okay, so whose shape is reassembled to the shape of the desired object, then allow the molten metal to solidify in the cavity. So whatever the mold cavity you are preparing, you are allowing that molten metal to solidified in that mold cavity. The solidified part is taken out of the mold and it is been removed out from that mold, and it is cleaned and finished to make it to and suitable for a use. The casting is not restricted to a metal. Okay, the glass and the plastic can also be cast using a variety of processes. Okay, also a products ranging a from a few millimeters to meters, a few grams of silver tons can be cast efficiently and economically, thereby making it versatile the methods of shaping object. Okay, so this is what the casting process is there. Nowadays it has been now versatile, most advanced casting processes are there, but the procedure is the same, only the equipments which are being used for the casting process are being changed. Okay, in spite of the cupola, induction furnace has been take over. So as per the humans or the labors were been used for the transporting of an molten metal to a mold cavity, it is also been changed. Okay, now the hydraulic lift and the cranes are being used for the dumping and the pouring of the molten metal into mold cavities. Okay, jolts and quez machines are being used for making for the mold cavities. Okay, so in the ancients or the few decades back, they have been used by the manually. Okay, now this manufacturing methods has been changed, not changed, the equipments which has been used are being changed in an advanced form way. Okay, in the next class we'll discuss regarding the classification of the foundries. So I will wind up over here. Okay, so we'll completely complete some within 2-3 class the revision of this model number 1. So be prepared for your quiz which has been going to conduct on Monday. Okay, so thank you for the joining, dear students. So we'll continue in the next class.